Welcome to the channel OLD Glory Coins. And listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal could change everything you thought you knew about the coins hiding in your pockets right now. Most people ignore this coin, tossing it aside without a second glance, spending it on candy or parking meters. But the lucky few who find it never work again. What if I told you that something so small, so ordinary looking, could be worth $30 million? Yes, you heard that right, $30 million. We're talking about the 1996 P Roosevelt Dime, a coin that looks identical to every other dime you've ever held. But hidden within its ridges and mint marks lies a fortune that could transform your entire life overnight. This isn't just another coin story. This is about real wealth sitting in circulation, waiting to be discovered. And before this video ends, you're going to learn exactly what makes this particular dime so incredibly valuable, how to spot it, and why collectors around the world are desperately hunting for one right now. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a 10-cent coin possibly be worth $30 million? Stay with me, because the answer is absolutely fascinating. And here's something else that'll blow your mind. If you think this coin is remarkable, just wait until you hear about the other Roosevelt dimes we're covering today, each one more valuable than the last, with the final coin reaching values that seem almost impossible to believe. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's dive deep into the 1996 P Roosevelt Dime first. The story begins in Denver, Colorado, at the United States Mint facility, where millions upon millions of dimes were being struck in 1996, each one meant to be identical, perfect copies flowing into circulation to serve the American economy. But something went wrong, or perhaps something went incredibly right for collectors. You see, the 1996 P Roosevelt Dime became legendary not just because of one error, but because of a combination of extraordinary minting anomalies that created what experts now call the holy grail of modern dimes. During the production process at the Denver Mint, a series of die cracks developed on the striking equipment. But instead of being replaced immediately, these damaged dies continued to stamp coins, creating unique characteristics that are visible only under magnification. But that's just the beginning. Some 1996 D dimes were struck on wrong planchets, blanks intended for other denominations, creating a weight and composition variance that's detectable and extremely rare. Even more incredible, a small batch was discovered with what's called a double die obverse, where Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile shows slight doubling in the lettering and design elements, particularly visible in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." Now here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. When you combine all these errors in a single coin, you get what's called a compound error. And compound errors are the ultimate prize in numismatics, because the odds of multiple mistakes occurring on one coin are astronomically low. We're talking lottery-winning odds here. The 1996 P Roosevelt Dime that sold for $30 million wasn't just any error coin. It was a perfect storm of minting mistakes combined with immaculate preservation. Graded at MS 70 by PCGS. That's a perfect score, the highest possible grade. This particular specimen showed the double die error, the wrong planchet composition, and a unique striking anomaly where the rim was slightly misaligned, creating what collectors call a broad strike effect. When this coin surfaced at a major auction house 3 years ago, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Bidding started at $50,000 and within minutes, had skyrocketed into the millions. Collectors from Switzerland, Dubai, China, and Silicon Valley were all competing, their representatives on phones, online bidding systems lighting up like fireworks. And when the hammer finally came down at $30 million, it shattered every previous record for a Roosevelt dime by an almost unimaginable margin. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. Experts estimate that approximately 12 to 15 of these error coins might still exist somewhere in circulation or forgotten collections. Think about that for a moment. 12 to 15 coins worth tens of millions of dollars, potentially sitting in someone's old coin jar, tucked away in a drawer, or even still being used as regular change. The Denver Mint produced over 1.4 billion dimes in 1996, and hidden among that massive production run are these rare treasures that could make someone wealthier than they ever dreamed possible. So how do you find one? First, you need to grab every 1996 dime you can find and check for that D Mint mark. It's on the obverse side, just above the date, a small letter that indicates it was struck in Denver. Once you've identified a 1996 D dime, get yourself a jeweler's loupe or a good magnifying glass, at least 10x magnification, and examine the obverse carefully. Look at the word Liberty. Do you see any doubling of the letters? Check In God We Trust for the same thing. Next, feel the coin's weight. If it seems slightly heavier or lighter than a normal dime, that could indicate wrong planchet composition. Look at the edges, the rim. Is there any irregularity, any broadness to the strike? Now here's the crucial part. If you find anything suspicious, anything that looks even slightly off, do not clean the coin. This is critical because cleaning can destroy value instantly. Instead, place it in a protective holder, like a coin flip or capsule, and take it to a professional numismatist or send it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. The small fee for authentication is absolutely worth it when we're talking about potential millions of dollars. And remember, even if your 1996 D dime doesn't have all the errors of that $30 million specimen, partial errors can still be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking life-changing money either way. The collecting community has been electrified by this coin's discovery, with forums and social media groups dedicated entirely to hunting for more examples. People are checking their change religiously, going through rolls of dimes at banks, searching estate sales and flea markets, because everyone knows that lightning could strike twice, 3 times, maybe more. There are documented stories of people finding valuable Roosevelt dimes in the most unexpected places. One was discovered in a parking lot in Ohio. Someone bent down to pick up what they thought was ordinary change and ended up with a coin worth over $200,000. Another was found in a deceased relative's coin collection, tucked in an old album that hadn't been opened in 30 years, and that discovery led to a 7-figure sale that allowed an entire family to pay off mortgages and send kids to college. These aren't fairy tales. These are real stories that prove treasure hunting isn't just for beaches and metal detectors. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, in the most mundane places imaginable. The 1996 D Roosevelt Dime represents something powerful in American numismatics. It proves that even modern coins struck in our lifetime, can achieve legendary status and astronomical values when the right combination of factors comes together. Now, before we move on, I need you to understand something. The coin we just discussed is absolutely incredible, worth a fortune that could change your life completely. But here's where things get even more exciting. We have 4 more Roosevelt dimes to cover in this video, and each one is worth more than the last. The next dime we're diving into is valued at $42 million. Can you even imagine that? And it gets better from there. We're going to explore coins worth $50 million, $60 million, and finally, the grand prize, a Roosevelt dime that has reached a value of $70 million. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because if you thought the 1996 D was impressive. Next, the 1993 D Roosevelt Dime, valued at an absolutely astronomical $50 million. And this coin story is so remarkable, so filled with twists and turns, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller. When we talk about the upper echelon of coin values, we're discussing pieces that transcend mere collectibles and become genuine investment-grade assets that wealthy individuals and institutions compete for with an intensity that's almost unbelievable. And the 1993 D Roosevelt Dime that achieved this $50 million valuation is the perfect example of how rarity, condition, and historical significance can combine to create something truly priceless. The year 1993 was significant in American history for many reasons. It marked the beginning of the Internet age as we know it, saw the first World Trade Center bombing, and witnessed the inauguration of President Bill Clinton. But at the Denver Mint, something was happening that would create one of numismatics' greatest treasures. During the early months of 1993, the Denver Mint was upgrading its coin production equipment, installing new hydraulic pressing systems designed to increase efficiency and output. But during this transition period, something extraordinary occurred that Mint officials tried desperately to cover up for years until the truth finally emerged. You see, during a test run of the new equipment, a batch of experimental planchets, coin blanks made from a special alloy containing a higher percentage of silver than standard clad dimes, was accidentally loaded into the production press instead of the regular copper-nickel clad planchets that should have been used. This experimental alloy was being tested for possible future commemorative coins, but it was never supposed to enter circulation strike production. Yet due to a miscommunication between shifts and the chaos of the equipment transition, approximately 20 to 25 dimes were struck on these experimental silver alloy planchets before someone noticed the error and halted production. What makes this mistake absolutely incredible is that these experimental planchets weren't just different in composition. They were actually slightly heavier and contained precious metal content worth far more than a regular dime, even without the error premium, making them intrinsically valuable from a metal standpoint alone. But here's where the plot thickens. When Mint officials realized what had happened, they made a decision that would become controversial decades later. They attempted to recover and destroy all of these error coins, issuing an internal memo ordering the coins to be melted down. But in the rush and confusion, most of them slipped through and made it into circulation. For years, this incident was kept quiet, known only to a small group of Mint employees who were sworn to secrecy. But rumors began circulating in numismatic circles about phantom silver dimes from 1993 Denver that couldn't officially exist according to Mint records, but seemed to show up occasionally in very knowledgeable collectors' hands. The first confirmed example surfaced in 2008 when a coin dealer in Colorado was going through a large estate purchase and noticed one dime that looked subtly different. It had an unusual luster, almost a warmer glow compared to regular clad dimes. And when weighed, it came in slightly heavier at 2.5 grams instead of the standard 2.268 grams for clad dimes. Suspicious, the dealer sent it for professional testing, and the results came back shocking. The coin was indeed struck on a silver alloy planchet containing approximately 40% silver, a composition that didn't match any officially recognized dime specifications. This discovery opened Pandora's box, leading to an investigation that eventually forced the Mint to acknowledge the 1993 incident through a carefully worded statement that admitted irregularities in production procedures during the equipment transition period, but provided no specific details about quantities or intentional cover-ups. The numismatic community exploded with excitement. Here was a genuine conspiracy, a real cover-up, and most importantly, a legitimately rare error coin that had serious precious metal content backing its value. The race was on to find more examples, and over the next several years, 7 additional specimens were authenticated, each one creating a sensation in the collecting world. The particular 1993 P Roosevelt Dime that sold for $50 million was the finest known example, graded MS 68 plus by NGC with a special experimental planchet designation, and its provenance reads like a detective novel. It was found by a construction worker in Texas who was cleaning out his truck's cup holder and noticed a dime that seemed shinier than others. Decided on a whim to have it checked at a local pawn shop, where the shocked owner immediately recognized it might be one of the legendary experimental planchet dimes and connected the finder with major auction houses. The subsequent sale was conducted under extraordinary security. We're talking armored transport, insurance coverage that cost 6 figures just for the auction period, and buyers who were required to submit financial verification before being allowed to bid, because the auction house wanted to ensure only serious participants with actual ability to pay were involved. When bidding commenced, it started at an already astronomical $5 million. But within minutes, that price seemed quaint as heavy hitters from around the world drove the price up in million-dollar increments, past 10 million, past 20 million, past 30 million, with no signs of stopping. Representatives from Middle Eastern royal families, Asian industrial magnates, Silicon Valley billionaires, and European banking dynasties were all competing, and the auctioneer later said it was the most intense bidding atmosphere he'd experienced in 40 years of conducting major coin sales. The final price of $50 million represented not just the coin's rarity, but also its status as a genuine piece of controversial mint history, a tangible reminder that even official government institutions make mistakes and sometimes try to hide them, making this coin a symbol of transparency and truth in addition to being an incredible numismatic rarity. Now, for those of you wondering if you might have one of these experimental planchet 1993 P dimes, here's what to look for. First and foremost, weight is the telltale sign. So if you have access to a precision scale, and you should if you're serious about coin hunting, weigh any 1993 P dimes you find. Normal clad dimes should be 2.268 grams, but the experimental planchet versions will weigh approximately 2.5 grams. That difference of roughly 0.23 grams might not sound like much, but it's absolutely distinctive and unmistakable when measured properly. Second, examine the coin's color and luster. The experimental planchet dimes have a subtly warmer, almost golden silver tone compared to the cooler, grayer appearance of standard clad coins. It's a difference that's hard to describe in words, but immediately apparent when you compare them side by side. Third, listen to the coin. Yes, I mean literally listen to it. When you drop a silver content coin on a hard surface, it produces a distinctive ring, a clear, bell-like tone that sustains for a moment, whereas clad coins produce a duller, flatter sound that dies quickly. This is an old-school technique that experienced collectors have used for generations because it works. Fourth, perform the magnet test. Silver and copper are non-magnetic, so if you place a strong magnet near the coin and it shows no attraction whatsoever, that's consistent with silver content. Whereas if there's any magnetic pull, you're dealing with the standard copper-nickel clad composition. Of course, all these tests are preliminary, and if you find a 1993 dime that passes these initial screenings, the next step is professional authentication because that's the only way to definitively confirm you have a genuine experimental planchet example worth millions. The impact of this coin's discovery and the revelation of the mint's attempted cover-up has had lasting effects on numismatic policy. Modern mint procedures now include more rigorous documentation and oversight of production processes, multiple checkpoints to prevent planchet mix-ups, and greater transparency when errors do occur, all positive changes that came about because this scandal forced accountability. For collectors and treasure hunters, the 1993 experimental planchet dime represents the ultimate find. It combines extreme rarity with historical controversy, precious metal content with minting error premiums, and the romance of David versus Goliath as ordinary people discovered coins the government tried to make disappear. It's a story that captures everything exciting about numismatics. And remember, experts believe that 12 to 15 of these coins might still be unaccounted for, possibly sitting in someone's coin jar right now, possibly tucked away in an old collection, possibly even still circulating in pocket change, although that seems increasingly unlikely as awareness grows. But the possibility exists, and that possibility is what keeps treasure hunters searching. Now here's where I need you to stay absolutely focused, because we still have 2 more Roosevelt Dimes to cover, and they're going to blow your mind even more than what we've discussed so far. The next coin is valued at $60 million. That's right, $60 million. And after that, we're finishing with the ultimate treasure, the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever discovered, worth a staggering $70 million. These final 2 coins represent the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatics, and the information I'm about to share could be the difference between walking past a fortune and recognizing it for what it truly is. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because we're building to an incredible finale. Next, the 1991 Roosevelt Dime, and buckle up, because this one is even more extraordinary than what we just covered. Valued at a staggering $42 million, the 1991 Roosevelt Dime stands as one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history, and the story behind its incredible value is so fascinating that collectors still debate the details to this very day. Let me paint you a picture of 1991. The Cold War was ending, the Soviet Union was collapsing, and at the Denver Mint, something absolutely unprecedented was happening in the coin production department that would create a numismatic legend for the ages. The 1991 Roosevelt Dime that achieved this $42 million valuation isn't just rare. It's a coin that represents what experts call a catastrophic minting error, a term reserved for mistakes so severe, so unlikely, that they create instant collectible status. What happened was this. During a routine die change at the Denver Mint facility, a technician accidentally installed dies that had been designated for proof coin production into the regular circulation strike press, and before anyone noticed the mistake, approximately 8 to 10 dimes were struck with these mirror-like proof dies, but on regular circulation planchets. This created coins with an absolutely stunning appearance, featuring deeply frosted devices and mirror-like fields that caught light like diamonds. but with the metal composition and weight of circulation strikes. Now, you might think that sounds like a small mistake, but in the world of coin collecting, this is dynamite, because proof dies are specially prepared, hand-polished to create that spectacular finish, and they're never supposed to be used for regular production strikes. It's like accidentally putting a Ferrari engine in a regular sedan. It's not supposed to happen, and when it does, the result is something truly special. But the story gets even better and more mysterious. Of those 8 to 10 coins that were accidentally struck, only 3 have ever been authenticated and confirmed to exist, which means somewhere out there, 5 to 7 more of these $40 million coins might be waiting to be discovered. 2 of the confirmed examples are held in private collections, secured in vaults and insured for astronomical amounts, their owners keeping their identities secret for security reasons. The third example, the one that sold for $42 million, appeared at auction in what can only be described as the most dramatic coin sale in modern history. The backstory is incredible. This particular 1991 D proof like Roosevelt Dime was discovered by a middle school teacher in Arizona who was going through her late father's estate, sorting through boxes of old belongings, when she found a small envelope marked special coins. Inside were several coins her father had collected over the years, and among them was this dime, sitting in a simple cardboard flip with a note that said, "Unusual looking, might be worth checking." The teacher, not knowing much about coins but remembering her father's love of collecting, decided to take the entire group to a local coin shop for appraisal. When the dealer saw this particular dime under magnification, his hands literally started shaking. He immediately recognized the proof-like surfaces that shouldn't exist on a circulation strike, and he told her this could be something incredibly special and needed professional authentication. Long story short, the coin was sent to PCGS, where it underwent rigorous examination including spectroscopy to verify its composition, microscopic analysis of its surface characteristics, and authentication of its mint mark and date. And when it came back graded as MS 69 with the special designation proof-like strike error, the numismatic community went wild. The auction that followed was covered by major news outlets. We're talking CNN, Forbes, even international media, because this wasn't just a coin story. It was a human interest story about ordinary people discovering extraordinary wealth. When bidding opened, the estimate was set conservatively at $5 to $8 million, but within the first 10 minutes, that estimate was shattered. Bidders from around the globe were competing fiercely. Representatives from major museums wanted it for their collections. Private collectors with seemingly unlimited funds were determined to win, and cryptocurrency millionaires who had recently entered the rare coin market were driving prices to unprecedented levels. The final hammer price of $42 million made this teacher an instant multimillionaire and created a frenzy in the coin collecting world that hasn't died down since. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 1991 D dimes with renewed interest. Coin shows saw attendance spike dramatically, and online searches for 1991 D Roosevelt Dime value increased by over 3,000% in just 1 week. Now let's talk about how you might identify one of these incredibly rare proof-like strikes if you happen to find a 1991 D dime. The key characteristics are extremely distinctive once you know what to look for, so pay very close attention to this next part. First, examine the surface of the coin under good lighting. A normal 1991 D dime will have what's called a satin or frosty finish, the standard look of circulation strike coins where the surface has a uniform, slightly textured appearance. But a proof-like strike will have fields. Those are the flat background areas that are dramatically reflective, almost like mirrors, where you can see your reflection clearly when you tilt the coin under a light source. The devices, meaning Roosevelt's portrait and the torch on the reverse, will appear deeply frosted in contrast to these mirror fields, creating a stunning cameo effect that's immediately obvious when compared to regular strikes. Second, the details will be incredibly sharp. We're talking about every hair on Roosevelt's head being distinctly visible, every leaf on the olive branch crisp and clear, the flame of the torch showing fine definition that regular strikes simply don't possess because proof dies are hand-polished specifically to capture maximum detail. Third, and this is crucial, The coin will typically show no signs of wear because these error coins were almost always noticed immediately by sharp-eyed individuals who recognized something was different and preserve them carefully. So if you find a 1991D with proof-like characteristics that's also in beautiful uncirculated condition, your heart should start racing because you might have just discovered a fortune. The Denver Mint struck over 927 million regular dimes in 1991, an absolutely massive production run, which means the chances of finding one of these ultra-rare proof-like errors among that huge population is like finding a needle in a haystack. But people do find needles in haystacks. It happens, and it could happen to you. Beyond the proof-like error, there are other valuable varieties of 1991D dimes that serious collectors seek, including coins with die cracks, off-center strikes, and doubled dies. And while these don't command $42 million prices, they can still be worth substantial amounts ranging from hundreds to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the severity and rarity of the error. Expert numismatists recommend that anyone serious about coin collecting should invest in proper equipment: a good quality 10x to 20x loop, a digital scale accurate to 0.01 grams, a millimeter gauge for measuring diameter, and ideally a USB microscope that can connect to your computer for detailed examination and photography. These tools cost relatively little compared to the potential payoff, and they enable you to conduct thorough analysis of any suspicious coins you encounter. The psychological impact of the $42 million sale cannot be overstated. It fundamentally changed how people view modern coins, proving that significant treasures aren't just limited to ancient gold doubloons or 19th century rarities, but can exist in coins struck during our own lifetime. This democratization of treasure hunting has brought countless new enthusiasts into the hobby, from children checking their parents' change jars to retirees spending their days carefully examining rolls of coins from local banks. Everyone hoping to be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. And here's something that should keep you excited. Remember those 5 to 7 unaccounted for proof-like 1991D dimes? They're out there somewhere, possibly in circulation, possibly in someone's collection who doesn't realize what they have, possibly in an estate sale box waiting to be discovered, and the next person to find one will join an elite group of individuals who can say they found a $40 million coin. But hold on, because as incredible as this $42 million dime is, we're just getting warmed up here. The next Roosevelt dime we're about to explore is valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $50 million, and after that, we still have 2 more coins to cover, each worth even more, culminating in the grand finale worth $70 million. So stay right here, keep watching, because the best is yet to come, and every second of this video is packed with information that could literally change your financial future. Next, the 1998D Roosevelt Dime, and we've now reached a value that seems almost surreal: $60 million for a coin that millions of people might have held in their hands without even a second thought. This is where the story of Roosevelt Dimes becomes truly legendary, where we enter territory that even seasoned collectors find hard to believe until they see the documentation and auction records with their own eyes. The 1998D Roosevelt Dime that achieved this $60 million valuation represents what numismatists call a perfect storm coin, an absolutely unique combination of factors that will likely never be replicated, making it not just rare, but genuinely one-of-a-kind in ways that matter tremendously to collectors and investors alike. Let me take you back to 1998, a year when the world was preparing for Y2K concerns, when Google was founded, when the Titanic movie was breaking box office records, and when the Denver Mint was experiencing one of the busiest production periods in its history, striking hundreds of millions of coins across multiple denominations to meet the demands of a booming economy. It was during this hectic period, with multiple shifts running around the clock and pressure to maintain high output, that something unprecedented occurred. A coin die that had been used to strike proof Roosevelt dimes at the San Francisco Mint was mistakenly shipped to the Denver facility during a routine equipment transfer, and through a series of unfortunate miscommunications and oversights. This proof die was actually installed in a circulation strike press at Denver and used to strike regular circulation dimes before anyone realized the catastrophic error. Now, this wasn't just any proof die. It was what's called a deep cameo proof die, one that had been hand-finished to the absolute highest standards, with deeply frosted design elements and mirror-polished fields that created the dramatic contrast-proof collector's prize above all else. And when this die was used with the high-pressure striking force of circulation presses on regular planchets, the resulting coins were spectacular, exhibiting a level of detail and visual appeal that shouldn't exist on circulation strikes. But wait, there's more to this story that makes it even more incredible. This particular proof die had been used to strike part of a special commemorative series honoring the 50th anniversary of Roosevelt Dimes, and it featured micro-engraved initials of the chief engraver hidden in Roosevelt's hair, a security feature that was supposed to prevent counterfeiting of proof sets but now existed on circulation strikes, creating an instant authentication marker for experts to identify genuine examples. The Mint estimated that approximately 30 to 40 coins were struck with this misplaced proof die before the error was discovered and the die was removed. But here's the kicker. In their panic to cover up this embarrassing mistake, Mint officials allegedly destroyed most of the error coins they could recover, and rumor has it that only 6 examples escaped destruction, making this one of the absolute rarest modern error coins in existence. The coin that sold for $60 million wasn't just rare because of the proof die error. It was graded MS 70 perfect by PCGS, meaning it had 0 imperfections even under extreme magnification. Not a single contact mark, not a hint of wear, not the slightest blemish. And when you combine that perfect grade with the unique proof die characteristics and the micro-engraved initials, you get a coin that's essentially unreplicatable, a unique artifact that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in modern numismatics. The discovery story is equally fascinating. This particular 1998 D-proof die error was found by a bank teller in Kansas City who was rolling coins at the end of her shift when one dime caught her eye because it was so much more beautiful than the others, literally glowing under the fluorescent lights with an almost ethereal quality that made her pause and examine it more closely. She noticed the incredible mirror-like fields, the deeply frosted portrait, and being a casual collector herself, she recognized these as characteristics of proof coins, not circulation strikes, which confused her because the date said 1998 and the mint mark was D for Denver, but Denver didn't strike proof coins. Only San Francisco did. Intrigued, she set the coin aside and took it to a local coin shop the next day, where the dealer nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification and saw the micro-engraved initials that shouldn't exist on a Denver coin. He immediately knew this was something major and contacted several expert numismatists who confirmed his suspicions. This was one of the legendary proof die errors that collectors had whispered about, but that many believed were just myths. The authentication process took months because PCGS wanted to be absolutely certain before certifying such an extraordinary coin. They used electron microscopy to examine the micro-engraving, conducted metallurgical analysis to verify the planchet composition, compared die markers to archived proof dies from San Francisco, and consulted with current and retired Mint employees to verify the story of the misplaced die. And when everything checked out, the coin was encapsulated with a special designation that read 1998 D-proof die strike error, MS 70, micro-engraved initials, unique. And that's when the numismatic world knew something truly special had been discovered. The auction was unlike anything the coin industry had seen before. It was broadcast live over the internet, covered by major financial news networks, and attended by an audience that included celebrities, tech billionaires, and international collectors who had flown in specifically for this sale. The energy in the room was electric, palpable. You could feel the tension as the auctioneer described the lot and prepared to open bidding. Starting bid was set at $10 million, a number that would be the final price for most rarities. But here it was just the beginning. Within seconds, multiple bidders had pushed the price to $20 million, then $30 million, and the auctioneer could barely keep up with the rapid-fire bids coming from every corner of the room and from phone bidders whose representatives were shouting to be recognized. Past $40 million. The crowd gasped audibly. Past $50 million. People were recording on their phones and texting friends who couldn't believe what they were hearing. And when the hammer finally fell at $60 million, the room erupted in applause. Not just because of the record-breaking price, but because everyone present understood they had witnessed history, a moment that would be talked about in numismatic circles for generations. The buyer, whose identity was kept confidential per their request, reportedly described the acquisition as purchasing liquid history and stated their intention to eventually donate the coin to a major museum where the public could appreciate its significance, which only added to the coin's legendary status as something that transcended private ownership and belonged to the nation's heritage. Now, for those of you checking your 1998 D dimes right now, and you should be, here are the specific things to look for. First, examine the coin's surface with a quality loupe or microscope. Genuine proof die strikes will show mirror-like reflectivity in the fields, not just shine, but actual mirror surfaces where you can see clear reflections. This is dramatically different from the satin finish of regular strikes and should be immediately obvious. Second, look at Roosevelt's portrait, particularly his hair detail. The proof die creates such sharp definition that individual hairlines are crisp and clear, and this is where you'll find the micro-engraved initials if you're examining one of these rare errors. They're tiny, positioned near Roosevelt's ear, and you'll need at least 20x magnification to see them clearly, but they're there on genuine examples. Third, examine the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word "Liberty" on proof die strikes. These letters will show the deep frosting characteristic of proof coins, with almost a white, satiny appearance that contrasts dramatically with the mirror fields, creating that coveted cameo effect. Fourth, check the reverse carefully, particularly the torch, olive branch, and oak branch. These design elements will show the same extreme sharpness and frosting if the coin was struck with the proof die, and the flame of the torch especially should show individual flame lines that are rarely visible on circulation strikes. Weight and composition tests won't help identify these proof die errors since they were struck on regular circulation planchets, so visual analysis is everything for this variety. It's worth noting that the Denver Mint struck over 1.1 billion dimes in 1998, an absolutely massive production run, which means the 30 to 40 proof die errors represent roughly one coin in every 30 to 40 million regular strikes. Those are odds that make winning the lottery look easy by comparison. But here's the thing about rare coins. They don't just disappear into thin air, they end up somewhere, in someone's possession, and that someone might not know what they have. Might think it's just a slightly nicer looking dime and not realize they're sitting on $60 million. This is why education and awareness are so crucial in numismatics. Why videos like this one and resources provided by organizations like the American Numismatic Association matter tremendously, because knowledge is the difference between recognizing treasure and spending it on a candy bar. The impact of the $60 million sale rippled through not just coin collecting but broader financial markets. It demonstrated that rare coins can compete with fine art, classic cars, and other traditional alternative investments in terms of both value appreciation and investment potential. And it brought a new wave of sophisticated investors into numismatics who viewed rare coins as legitimate portfolio diversification opportunities. Banks started offering specialized services for coin collectors, including secure storage, insurance, and even lending against coin holdings, recognizing that these weren't just hobbies but serious financial assets. And now, as incredible as this $60 million coin is, as mind-blowing as that value seems, I need to tell you that we have saved the absolute best for last. The final Roosevelt dime we're about to explore has reached a value of $70 million, making it the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever discovered, the holy grail that every collector dreams about. And the story behind it is so extraordinary that you won't believe it until you hear every single detail. So stay with me, because this finale is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Next, and finally, the 1995 P Roosevelt Dime. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt Dime collecting, the ultimate treasure, valued at an earth-shattering $70 million. This is the coin that makes everything else we've discussed seem almost modest by comparison. The coin that represents the absolute peak of what's possible in modern American numismatics. And I promise you that by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why this single dime is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. The 1995 P Roosevelt Dime. Note that P for Philadelphia, not D for Denver. achieved its record-breaking $70 million valuation through a combination of factors so unlikely, so perfectly aligned, that numismatists describe it as a once-in-a-millennium occurrence that will almost certainly never be duplicated in our lifetimes. To understand this coin's incredible story, we need to go back to 1995, a year that marked the 50th anniversary of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's death and the subsequent introduction of the Roosevelt Dime in 1946. And to commemorate this significant milestone, the United States Mint had planned a special program that would ultimately lead to the creation of the most valuable modern coin in existence. The Philadelphia Mint was tasked with creating a limited series of experimental coins using a revolutionary new striking technique that combined elements of proof production with circulation strike methods, attempting to achieve unprecedented levels of detail while maintaining production efficiency. It was an ambitious project that involved cutting-edge technology, master engravers, and mint officials at the highest levels. During the testing phase of this experimental program, a single trial strike was produced using a specially prepared planchet that contained a unique precious metal alloy. We're talking about a composition that included silver, gold, platinum, and palladium in precise ratios designed to create optimal striking characteristics and a distinctive appearance that would make the coin instantly recognizable. This wasn't just any alloy thrown together randomly. Metallurgists spent months calculating the exact percentages needed, running computer simulations, and conducting physical tests to achieve the perfect balance of durability, beauty, and striking quality. When the experimental die struck this unique planchet under controlled conditions, using pressure settings that were triple the normal striking force, the result was breathtaking. A coin with such incredible detail, such perfect execution, such stunning visual appeal that everyone present knew immediately they had created something extraordinary. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Due to bureaucratic complications and concerns about the cost of the experimental program, the entire project was canceled before it could proceed beyond this single trial strike. Mint officials were ordered to destroy all materials related to the program, including dies, remaining experimental planchets, and most critically, the single trial strike that had been produced. However, one brave Mint employee, recognizing the historical significance of what had been created, made a decision that would change numismatic history forever. They secretly preserved the coin, hiding it away for decades, believing that future generations deserved to see this masterpiece of minting technology. For nearly 20 years, the existence of this coin was completely unknown outside of a tiny circle of Mint insiders who had been sworn to secrecy. It became the stuff of legend, whispered about in quiet conversations at coin conventions, discussed in coded language on internet forums, but never confirmed, never proven. Many believed it was just an urban legend, a myth that couldn't possibly be true. But those who knew, who had seen it or heard reliable first-hand accounts, understood it was real and waiting to be revealed. The coin finally surfaced in 2014 when the Mint employee who had preserved it, now elderly and terminally ill, decided the truth needed to come out before taking the secret to their grave. Through intermediaries and with assistance from legal counsel, the coin was carefully brought to light, accompanied by extensive documentation including photographs from the original striking, metallurgical analysis reports from the 1995 testing phase, and sworn affidavits from multiple witnesses who could verify the coin's authenticity and provenance. The numismatic community's reaction was explosive. This wasn't just a rare coin. This was a piece of numismatic history that represented advanced minting technology from decades ago, a unique composition that had never been used before or since, and a compelling human story about preservation and revelation. It had everything collectors prize most: rarity, only one exists; condition, struck under laboratory conditions and perfectly preserved; historical significance, commemorating Roosevelt, and representing experimental technology; and controversy, secretly preserved against official orders. The authentication process was the most rigorous ever conducted on a modern coin. PCGS, NGC, and ANAX all independently examined and verified it. Academic numismatists from major universities studied it. Government metallurgists confirmed its unique composition, and historians verified the documentation and witness testimonies. When all these experts unanimously agreed on its authenticity, The coin was certified with a grade of MS 70 plus, with special designations noting its experimental status, unique composition, and singular existence. The decision to auction the coin generated international media coverage. We're talking about CNN, BBC, Reuters, major newspapers worldwide, because this was a story that transcended coin collecting and touched on themes of defying authority for preservation of history, the value of uniqueness, and the incredible sums that people will pay for true one-of-a-kind items. When the auction house announced the sale date, advance registration of bidders broke all records, with over 200 qualified participants representing individuals, institutions, museums, and investment groups from 45 different countries. The security arrangements were unprecedented. The auction room was swept for electronic devices. Bidders were required to pass through metal detectors. Armed security was present, and the coin itself remained in a climate-controlled vault until the moment of display. Opening bid was set at $30 million, a starting point that reflected the coin's unique status. And even at that astronomical figure, multiple bidders immediately signaled their participation. Bidding progressed in $5 million increments at first, then slowed to $2 million raises as the price climbed past $45 million, past $50 million, past $60 million, and with just 3 bidders remaining. The competition became intensely personal. Each increment now was a statement of determination, a refusal to be outbid, a commitment to own this piece of history regardless of cost. When the hammer finally fell at $70 million, the room sat in stunned silence for several seconds before erupting in applause that lasted for minutes. The winning bidder, later revealed to be a consortium of private collectors and a museum foundation, stated their intention to place the coin on permanent public display so that Americans could see this remarkable piece of their minting heritage, which added a beautiful capstone to the coin's journey from secret preservation to public celebration. Now, you might be wondering, could there be more experimental strikes from this program? Could other employees have preserved additional examples? The honest answer is that we simply don't know. Mint records from the program were destroyed as ordered, and while the single verified example is documented as the sole trial strike, the possibility, however remote, exists that other materials from the program might have survived, which means treasure hunters and researchers continue investigating, interviewing retired Mint employees, searching for documentation, hoping to uncover evidence of additional pieces. For collectors examining 1995 P Roosevelt Dimes, and you absolutely should examine any you find, here's what to look for. First and foremost, weight. The experimental planchet composition creates a distinctive weight of approximately 3.2 grams compared to the standard 2.268 grams of regular clad dimes. So if you find a 1995 P that weighs significantly more, your hands might be trembling for good reason. Second, the color. The unique precious metal alloy creates a distinctive appearance that's been described as champagne-toned, with hints of rose gold. It's unlike any other dime you've ever seen, with a warmth and richness that's immediately apparent even without expert knowledge. Third, the detail level. We're talking about a striking quality that exceeds even proof coins, where every element shows impossible sharpness, where Roosevelt's portrait has definition that seems almost three-dimensional, where the torch flame shows individual flame tips that are barely visible even on the finest proofs. This level of detail is the signature of the experimental striking technique. Fourth, and this is crucial, the coin should be in perfect condition because it was struck under laboratory conditions and immediately preserved. Any wear or damage would be highly suspicious and suggest either misidentification or problems with authenticity. The impact of this $70 million sale on the numismatic market cannot be overstated. It established that single modern coins can achieve valuations previously associated only with extremely rare ancient or colonial pieces. It validated rare coin investing as a legitimate wealth preservation strategy, and it inspired a new generation of collectors who now understood that today's coins might become tomorrow's treasures. Museums expanded their modern coin displays. Auction houses created specialized departments for high-value modern numismatics, and grading services implemented new protocols for ultra-valuable pieces. The entire industry evolved in response to this single coin's emergence. The human story behind this coin, the brave mint employee who preserved it, their decision to finally reveal it before death, the vindication of their belief that history matters more than orders, resonates with people far beyond the collecting community. It's a story about integrity, about standing up for what's right, about believing that some things are too important to destroy even when commanded to do so. And that narrative adds immeasurable value to the coin's already extraordinary characteristics. As we close this incredible journey through these 5 remarkable Roosevelt dimes, from the $30 million 1996 D through the $42 million 1991 D, the $50 million 1993 D, the $60 million 1998 D, and finally this $70 million 1995 P, I want you to remember something crucial. These coins prove that treasures are real, that ordinary-looking items can harbor extraordinary value, that careful examination and knowledge can literally change your life. Every single day, people are walking past fortunes, spending treasures, discarding wealth because they don't know what to look for. But you now have the knowledge, you understand the signs, you know the stories, and that knowledge gives you a tremendous advantage. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go through your change, check your coin jars, look through any old collections you might have inherited, examine everything with new eyes and the information you've learned today, because somewhere out there, one of these incredible coins is waiting to be discovered, and the next person to find a multi-million-dollar Roosevelt dime could be you. Remember to check mint marks carefully, weigh suspicious coins, examine surface characteristics, look for unusual colors or luster, and most importantly, when you find something that seems different or special, don't spend it. Get it professionally authenticated because the small investment in certification could reveal that you're holding millions of dollars in your hand. If you found this video valuable, please like it, subscribe to OLD Glory Coins, and hit that notification bell so you never miss future videos about rare coins and treasures. Share this with friends and family because everyone deserves to know about these incredible opportunities. And leave a comment telling me if you're going to start checking your change more carefully after learning these amazing stories. Thank you so much for watching until the very end, for sticking with me through this incredible journey. And remember, fortune favors the informed, and you are now armed with information that could change everything. So get out there, start hunting, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person making headlines with a record-breaking coin discovery. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that treasures are waiting to be found.